And it's Ayesha Gallion, your host for I'm Speaking Now. Thanks for tuning into today's podcast episode. I hope that after you listen, my promise to you as your fairy communication sister is that you'll be a better listener, a better communicator, and a more confident master of messaging than you were yesterday. Remember that effective communication always transcends mediocrity. If you like, follow me over on Instagram at I Am Speaking Now, or if you want to learn more about the services that I offer, feel free to visit AyeshaJGallion.com. And now let's get into today's show, folks. I'm Speaking Now family. We have such an amazing guest for you today. We have Mustafa Amar, and he is here. Actually, you'll never believe what we had to go through to make this interview happen. I'm not going to get into that, but believe me, we made sure the technology wouldn't stop us because this is an international interview. Mustafa, can you say hello and tell us where you are right now?
Hello, Aisha. Hi, how are you? Good morning, and good morning to all your listeners. Actually, I'm in the Maldives right now. We've been trying to fix a date or trying to talk while I was in Egypt, Dubai, and then here in Maldives. So it's not easy, but we insisted.
We had to have this conversation. And folks, I want you to know why Mustafa is actually joining us on I'm Speaking Now. You know, here we focus on communication and refinement of it and insight, perspective professionally and personally. Mustafa is the creator, the co-founder, CEO of The Passion MBA. And there's a whole story about this, but it has to do with the changes that we decide to make and the courage that is required when we're considering changing careers. So Mustafa, can you tell us a little bit about what the Passion MBA is?
Thank you, Aisha, for giving me this opportunity. So actually, the Passion MBA is a very interesting approach. What happened is I was doing my MBA a few years ago in Manchester University. And, the idea of doing your MBA mostly connected to two main concepts. Number one is somebody who want to grow more in his career or her career and want to get up to a managerial position. And you won't get to this unless you open new doors for yourself, unless you learn more skills, including management skills and, learn to manage other people from different departments, taking care of different responsibility. And the second most important concept is that a big majority as well, percentage of those guys who are doing their MBAs, the MBA is quite different from doing your master's degree or PhD or BA or whatever. So you don't focus on one study, one subject per se. You get to, study entrepreneurship. You get to know more about marketing, about operations, about private equity, venture capital, a lot of subjects. For a lot of people who are looking for a different career, for a career change or career transition, an MBA is of good value for them. So this is how I came up with the Passion MBA, because what actually most of the business schools tend not to cover is open the doors for you. They get you to look at different doors, but they don't help you to choose what's next,
Right.
So I remember after my MBA, me and a lot of my colleagues, we were like asking this question, what's next? So I had to embark on my own journey on knowing what's next. And this is actually what takes us to the Passion MBA. So the Passion MBA is a quite practical approach on, defining the answer of that question, what's next for each one of us. And I have seen over the course of my different careers, people who are stuck somewhere and they are not able to, find a solid answer for this. What can I do next? What kind of a career I can embark on? What kind of adventure I can embark on to fulfill myself, to feel, fulfilled about my career and do something valuable for myself and for the people around me. And this is how I came up with that concept of the Passion MBA. So it's building or rebuilding your career and your life on your passions. But there is actually a process in this. So I will dive deeper into that process when we get to the details.
Well, I have to tell you, the Passion MBA is quite catchy. It's hard to forget. So, and I have to ask, I mean, it's a great name in terms of just marketing and helping people get the idea right away. The context is easily accessible by people who are unfamiliar with the concept. So thank you for explaining that. What about people who don't have their MBA? What if we have an I'm speaking now listener who is an artist or who is a customer service representative or who is an educator or a principal, and their line of study isn't necessarily MBA or business centric, but they want to
Yeah,
change careers. Can they learn
exactly.
from your concepts or your
Exactly.
principles?
Exactly. That's a very good question. Thank you, Aisha, for this question, because it's not targeting, MBAs or people who did their MBAs. The main concept is getting people to know themselves better. So if I can explain the process, when we do things with passion, we enjoy what we are doing. We can work even for longer hours, and we feel that we are fulfilling our kind of life purpose. So if each one of us should have a life purpose or should have a value, at least to add to place that where he or she works, or to the society around him, or even to the world, then I believe when you build your career on your passions, it makes a difference. So a lot of people are working in different places in different careers where they don't have passion for, so they burn out very quickly. They don't stay that long there, and they don't enjoy it. So I'm talking every day, almost on a daily basis, to people who are not enjoying what they are doing. And the first step is pursue your passion. Actually, there is a process, because not each passion would work for any one of us, but there is actually a process to define your passions and trim them, narrow them down, and test the winners among them. For example, in that, I have an exercise called the passion meter. So through that passion meter, you are metering your top passions, so 10 to 15 top passions. And then we narrow them down through that very organic process to the top 3 passions. And then there is another quite longer process, which we are testing your passions here. We're giving you some times to spend some time on these passions and check which ones would grow, which ones you wouldn't enjoy more than the others. And then we narrow them down to maybe maximum 2 areas, and then we have a logical approach to calculate which one is the best for you. So over the course of my different careers, I have been able to do this process. I've been always going through this process. In the beginning, maybe in the first transition, I wasn't doing this intentionally, so I was just trying things. I had a passion, that's for sure. But when I have been in different career transitions, when I did it several times,
Yes,
I could
that
come
is
up with
something
a
I'm curious about, because your background career-wise is quite an adventure. So, can you give us some insight? Just tell us about your educational background. We know that you did study and attain the MBA from Manchester, but what are the careers that you've had in your family life? How did you balance navigating all of this?
It's I would, if I have a title for that story, I would say pursuing passion all the time. So I've been able, even since I was a kid, to pursue my passion. I was grown up as a very shy introvert and very conforming, so
Yes.
obeying the rules of the family and the parents. But at the same time, I had my own imagination. I had my own dreams. So I've been always visualizing all my dreams. When I was 5 years old kid, I always wanted to play soccer. And soccer for me was was crazy. So I've been, until now, it's still a passion and I still love it.
I know, guys, if you go to Mustafa's Instagram page, the Passion MBA, he does post about soccer. So
Exactly. Exactly. I still have that, but it was one of my dreams. I was as a 5 years old kid, I was playing everywhere. It was my dream to play in my favorite team in Egypt, Al Ahli, and then move to Barcelona at some point. I've been always dreaming about this, visualizing about all those dreams, scoring goals, all those nice things. But then that imagination power grew with me. So it took me to another level. I saw an amazing guy he passed away a few years ago, and he was an ambassador at that time. So I saw him when I was 10 years old. He was an amazing person. You see an encyclopedic person in front of you. The way he talks, the way, everything looks amazing. And that actually, drove the passion inside me. I say, I wanted to be like that man. And I wanted to be a diplomat like him. So what happened is 2 years later, I started actually preparing for that. When I was 12 years old, I started okay, how to be a diplomat? I just asked, and okay, do I need to prepare this and that and that? I started even memorizing all the world capitals. I started, trying to memorize general information everywhere, read about history, blah, blah, blah. So I've been down that road for a while, from 12 to 16. And almost like when I was 14, 15, almost everybody around me, come on, you're going to be an ambassador. And it was a passion. And I wanted always to do it because I wanted to be like that man who would be able to travel the world, learn about other cultures, other languages, and so on. So until when I, became 16, what happened is I had another passion inside me. And that passion was for chemistry. If I could say I never excelled in something, it was chemistry. I enjoyed so much chemistry. I really enjoyed. Just to give an example, that sometimes in organic chemistry, they give you the chance to do like 2 or 3 conversions, from one compound to the other. But I was able to go up to 20 plus conversions, and not even by reading and writing, just in my imagination as well. So it was going very quickly.
It was very intrinsic for you.
Exactly. And then I just decided, I told my dad, I am going to join university in 2 years from now. So I choose pharmacy. My dad wanted me to be a doctor. So he tried to convince me with that. And I told him, sorry, this is my passion. And, and I feel that if I don't study all kinds of chemistry, something would happen to me. I really have to study all kinds of chemistry. I went through that journey for 5 years. I enjoyed chemistry. That was a passion for me until the last semester. And the old passion to be a diplomat started coming back to me. Once I graduated, it was so weird that somebody is graduated and then, what you're going to do? I'm gonna study to be a diplomat. So that was quite weird. So my first boss I work with as a pharmacist, when he asked me, what's your dreams about your career? When I told him this, he looked at me, you're crazy.
Why are you here?
Yeah. Why are we here? I embarked on that journey. So I, of course, I had to decide. I took some time. So I didn't just say, I have to be a diplomat. And no, I took some time to decide. And we can dive deeper into this decision process because it takes time. When I explained to you earlier, the process of trimming down your passion, spending time with them. And I took some time to make sure that this is the right decision for me because I don't want to go back and forth. And then, after a few months or a few years, I say, no, this is not the thing that I really want to do.
Well, Mustafa, when I'm listening to you, what I'm extracting is that really zeroing in on your passion starts with an internal dialogue initially, and it's a very honest internal dialogue. So I'm gleaning that in order for people to take the first step toward finding their passion and pursuing it, they have to have an honest conversation within. And of course, what you do via the Passion MBA is help to facilitate and refine and specify that passion so that they can kind of have more confidence in pursuing it along the journey. Am I correct?
Exactly, Ayesha. The main issue now is that most of the people I'm talking to, I'm coaching, they don't know where they are heading. So the main problem is that the lack of clarity. So people, they don't spend time to understand themselves. They spend more time with other people doing, the kind of a daily work without talking to themselves, as you earlier mentioned. And this is actually the process that I'm trying to create for the people I'm working with, because people don't spend time with themselves. They don't understand themselves quite well. They don't know what they like the most, what they don't like. They don't ask themselves those very deep questions about themselves, about their lives, what matters for them, what are their passions, what are their values. And that's actually very surprising because, it's only one life that we are living here. So we should really enjoy to the max. We should really do the things that we are happy about, right? That makes us fulfilled.
Agreed. Yes.
And this is actually the process I'm trying to take them through, which is defining your passion. It's very interactive exercise. It's full of questions that needs a lot of reflection. So actually, each of these exercises, they would take a week or 10 days to reflect on. And then we come up with a conclusion for each of these statements and exercises. And then once we finish this process, which I call it phase 2, we are ready to know where we go. So, and lack of clarity, you try different things, you're not clear about things, so you're afraid of change, so you never change, right? So you stay where you are because the lack of clarity. But when you know that what you are doing right now or what you are starting on in your new journey is the perfect fit for your future life, then for sure you're going to do it, right? For sure you're going to try. You know that there are a lot of difficulties around you and you have to go through those difficulties, but that clarity of vision and that sure thing, push you to do it.
Right. Now, I'd like to ask a question here because this sounds really positive. It sounds very doable, but I want to turn the page a little bit and talk about the realities of shifting gears when it comes to career. So, okay, you attended the University of Manchester. You received the Global MBA. Okay, you were formerly an economic officer at the Egyptian embassy in China, right? So that is not just around the corner from where you grew up, right?
Yeah.
Just the culture, right?
Exactly.
You've worked at the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank in Beijing. Did you have to challenge yourself? People are afraid of the challenges of learning new cultures, whether it is an actual ethnic culture, whether it's a corporate culture. Someone may be coming from an artistic environment and going into a corporate culture, or vice versa. This often happens. I've read about it a million times.
Yeah.
Someone who's worked in the corporate world and they're like, hey, I want to make cheese. I want to, I want to build houses instead. And so they go into these other lanes where they have to learn a whole new culture. Did you have to shift gears relative to culture?
Of course.
And was it scary?
Oh, of course, it always sounds scary in each step. And it's very, very normal to be afraid. But, that level of fear shouldn't exceed a certain limit, because if it exceeds a certain limit, then you wouldn't move, right? I call it the very positive fear that, oh my God, I'm a pharmacist and everybody around me is telling me you cannot be a diplomat. How come? You studied only chemistry all your life, and right now you want to be a diplomat.
Yeah.
And do you see
that does sound a bit abnormal.
Exactly.
It's not what you usually hear every day.
Exactly, and that's actually was almost everywhere around me. It was surrounding me from all the sides. So from my boss at work to my colleagues to my close friends. Sometimes somebody say it, sorry to say, you are stupid that you are wasting your time like this. And I had to accept all of these things because what I really cared about, this is my passion. And I took my time to make sure that this is the real passion for me. So I am sure that this is the right thing for me. And I want to do it. And if I didn't do it, I will always wonder how it would be if I tried at least. That feeling of regret was so strong inside me that I didn't want to regret about not trying at least. If I tried and it didn't work, okay, that's fine, And in terms of regrets, there are a lot of research in this topic. And actually, people regret their mistakes, yes, but you don't regret it for a long time. It doesn't last long, because you get to learn from it and move on. The long-lasting regrets are the ones for the things that you wanted to do and you never did. Yeah. The adventures that you wanted to embark on but you never even tried. The passions that you wanted to pursue, the skills that you wanted to learn. There's an amazing book called The 5 Top Regrets of the Dying. By Bronnie Ware, and she's an Australian author. And she used to work with people who were about to die. So this is how she came up with the idea of writing that book.
Wow. And that's a very powerful title.
Powerful.
Just
very
alone,
powerful.
the concept. I got chills.
Exactly. And actually, when she was talking to, different people, in the last few weeks before they die, mostly, they were talking about their regrets. And number one regret in this five regrets of, for them is we wish if we lived the life of our dreams, not the life that others were expecting from us. So that's actually the number one major source of regrets in people's life in general. I really don't want to be in this situation. I don't wish anybody to be in this situation, that the last moments of my life and I'm just regretting things that I didn't learn, the adventures that I wanted to do, the travels that I wanted, to embark
Yes.
on, the passions. And that's actually very, very powerful one. We tend to, when we learn from our mistakes, we don't regret that much about them because there is a lesson learned here. But the things that we didn't do, and at least we never tried, are the things that we really would regret a lot. So back to my story at that time when I was trying to be a diplomat, I've seen people around me were discouraging me, it's useless what you're doing, but I was sure about this. I had the passion, so that's something to build on, and I didn't want to regret. So I say I would do my best every single day, and the result is not 100% mine, but at least I will do my best. Wasn't easy. I was chosen as one out of 30. We were 30 people out of total 2,000 contestants. So it wasn't easy at all. People actually were telling me every day like this, do you think that they're going to take you,
Oh my gosh.
among 20 or 30 out of 2,000? And actually, I was asking myself the same question every day. So I
Yes.
was saying to myself, do you think that they're going to take you and
Oh my
leave
goodness.
all those people
Self-doubt.
with, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's part of the process and it's very, very normal. But with faith, you get to balance that. So, and I claim that I managed as a teenager to build some faith, faith in myself, faith in God, faith, the fairness of the universe when you do your best on the long term,
Yes.
and I asked myself, I used to have this conversation every day while I was studying. So I ask myself this self-doubt questions and I say, oh no, I cannot do it. And then I ask myself another question and I say, you think it's impossible for you to do it, right? And I say, yes, it's impossible. And I say, and then I say, is it impossible for God to happen?
Oh,
And I say, no, of course it's not impossible. Then I say, okay, then focus on yourself, do your part. Just focus on studying, focus
yes.
on preparing yourself. That's it. That's
That's a
actually
great way to eclipse the self-doubt. That was excellent.
exactly. Without that daily discussion, without that, reminding myself with what I managed to do. I tried to do all the things that take me there. This is my life, where I want to see my life in the coming years. This is what I want to do, traveling the world, doing something different. I enjoyed chemistry. I enjoyed pharmacy as long as it's for a few years, but not for forever. So I was just pushing myself so much to do it. And I say, I would do everything possible to be there. I have the faith. It's already getting tested every day. And I really have to do my best, at least do my best. And actually, there is a lot of stories in this journey because this journey lasted for almost 3 years. While I
I
was
see.
working and studying, and my faith got tested several times. But then, when you have faith and it starts, getting tested, wait for the signs. Wait for the omens that the universe is going to send you
Oh,
because it's part of the process, actually. You have faith in yourself, again, in the fairness of the universe when you do your best on a long term and you wait for the rewards, right? Sometimes, you have downsides here and there, right? And sometimes it's not fair here and there. But if you
understood.
insist and if you persist, you get what you really want, or you get at least the rewards, you get something big. With patience, with hard work, with consistency, persistence, fairness comes. That's actually, that's actually, I see it as a rule of life. And all I had to do is to believe this is my dream, to believe in my passion, to believe in myself and to believe that, God will help me there. So he will take me to that.
Absolutely.
Across the journey, I got a lot of signs that this is the right thing for you. Or you are on the right track and it's going to happen. Some of them were mind blowing. Like if I just tell you one of them, you're going to say, oh, come on, you're lying, because that was actually really was very crazy when I started thinking about it when I was in the last semester in university. So all our pharmacists or future pharmacists who are about to graduate. And one day, one of them came to me, and he doesn't know me very well. He doesn't actually no one knows that what I'm planning for, or at least what I'm thinking about. Like, I wanted to be a diplomat once I graduate, I was still thinking in that. And he came to me and, Mustafa, I feel something and I have to tell you. And I say, what? He said, actually, you don't belong here. And I say, okay. And he said, you should be a diplomat. And I didn't know what to say to him, and it was very weird for me. And I thought that it's out of compliment for whatever reason. He just said it. And yes. I ignored that. But something about signs, that when you get the same sign repeated, either in different timings or across different people, they are, conveying this message to you, then you really have to consider this.
Yes, try to extract the deeper meaning from it. Absolutely. No coincidences.
Exactly. And what happened is that the same guy came to me 3 more times across the whole semester to tell me the same message. And in the last time, I actually told him, I'm thinking about this for some time, and actually I want to do it. They say, this is a message. I don't know why did I feel this. I just told you what I feel. And this is for you, do whatever you want. So that was one of the messages that came earlier to tell me, okay, you may be going toward that track or that path and explore. I've been always getting those signs, because when you have faith, you get tested. You'll have to get some signs to affirm, right?
Yes.
That you are on the right path. And that's actually make things easier, because when you know that you're on the right path, at least you're not wasting your time. With faith and with science, things get easier.
I completely agree. I think those of us who are listening who have changed careers or who have embarked on journeys that are perhaps non-traditional, and we have had some resistance from our communities or our families or even ourselves, as Mustafa shared, with those internal dialogues that certainly support some level of resistance. There are signs that I think, if we're self-aware and if we are dedicated perhaps to the stream, if it's something that we commit to, I think that the signs will definitely be more clear than if we shy away from them. So it's kind of like you have to walk toward the dream so that the signs will be more prominent. And Mustafa, let me ask you this, because, with these signs, there are people who in this current climate, in the United States, I can tell you, job losses are definitely at an all-time high. It's an area of difficulty for many people. So those folks who are thinking about changing jobs, they're like, listen, I'm happy that I have one. I want to change, but I don't think now is the time. What are your thoughts on people that are in the midst of, say, a pandemic or any other kind of adversity? Do you think they should wait for things to resolve themselves, or do you think any time is a good time to pursue the passion?
I just share a story that happened to me last year. I left 2 jobs last year because in the pandemic. So it was actually during the pandemic. And I was actually working in banking for 4 years. But then I was on leave from my foreign ministry at the same time. So I worked there for 4 years in the banking industry, and I enjoyed so much. Then something else emerged. People would call me crazy if I leave 2 jobs within 1 month. But I assure you that right now, I am much happier. I'm much more fulfilled. I'm able to change people's life on a daily basis. When I get, thanking notes, or somebody send me a message, or when, I'm coaching somebody and say, thank you so much for this. I see more value for what I'm doing. Each case is different. That's for sure. But I wouldn't suggest anybody to leave right away. his or her job and jump in the ocean. Of course
No.
not. So, and it's always my advice to each person, it's case by case. And each person, I like to hear first the whole situation, and then we can move on. You always can keep your job, but don't lose your passion toward what you really want. And don't lose clarity about what you really matters for you. Because life, as we said earlier, is one, no matter how long we live, it's short. So you have to enjoy it. If I ask two questions to that person, maybe the first one, let's say, okay, you are in that job, you're not happy about it, it's fine, it pays your checks and everything is okay. But are you fulfilled in that job? I would expect the answer is no, I'm not fulfilled. I'm just here, I'm keeping it for the sake of that. So I would ask another question. What if I give you the solution to follow your passion, okay, enjoy what you are doing, wherever it is, and keep thriving, getting to pay, your paychecks, do all those things, pay your bills, and enjoy your life? Would you do the latter, or would you keep the career that you have? I would assume that it's the latter. So there is, of course, there is always a process for this. So I don't. It's a case by case. So I don't recommend each person to leave his or her job and just jump. But I assure you that if you at least start tracking, your passions, learn more about yourself, know your values, what really matters for you. For example, in the last process of career transition, two values were my family and my freedom. And those two values actually, I would say, were quite endangered in the previous job. I mean, my previous job, I had to work for almost 15 hours. It was so enjoyable.
A day?
A day, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, can we get a snapshot of just what this is because I know that people are thinking, well, maybe Mustafa is a 25-year-old 25-year-old young person who has his life ahead of him. I know, based on just our connection, that you and I have had the ability to go through a variety of careers. So, as they say here in the United States, we're not spring chickens. We're not teenagers. We're people who've had life experience. So are you able to share with our audience, just to give them some perspective, are you in your 30s? Are you in your 40s? If you feel comfortable.
Of course. I can give you a quick snapshot on the journey. So I started working when I was 22 years old. My first salary, just for people to know, were only less than $50. That's my first monthly salary. And I had to, while I was working as a pharmacist, I had to try as much as I could to work longer hours, save money, because I wanted to get other courses to be a diplomat. So I was trying even to save from that money. $50 started to getting,
$50 per week or per hour?
Per month.
50. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, and it went up.
I shouldn't be laughing, but
yeah, and it went up over a course of some time to 150.
And this is in Egypt.
That was in Egypt at that time.
Yes.
But so I wasn't born or didn't start my career with a silver spoon in my mouth. I really had to suffer. I really had to look at all the uncertainties around me. I really had to save money from the very low salary that I had to get to buy books, to get courses, to learn, to be a diplomat. So I was believing in my dream, and I thought, how long it would take me, I will get there. But luckily enough, by 25, I was a diplomat. So over the course of the 3 years, I managed to be a diplomat. So for the first year, I've been serving at home, but I've been traveling almost everywhere, to New York, Washington, on different courses, different training courses, to Canada, to different countries.
Right. Now, when the pandemic is over and you travel to New York again, we will have to have a cup of coffee then. I will do decaf. But we know you love your coffee. It's and guys, Mustafa, just if you want to follow him, he's on the Passion MBA on Instagram. You can see his coffee, you can see his beautiful views in the Maldives, you can see quotes from his upcoming book. It's a lovely potpourri of things that'll make you smile. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, but yes,
Thank you,
we have
Asha.
to have
Thank you.
coffee.
And we have to, because I mean, one of the things as well that I haven't told you, that I have passion for New York, and it's
Mm,
unexplainable. And I cannot
yeah,
explain it. Since the first time I went to New York, I love that city. And I always wanted to come back. And I always,
yeah.
every now and then I go there and I travel even for some leisure. But I'm hopeful very, very soon that I would come back. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so no, you're welcome. So then you were 25, you were a
25,
diplomat.
I were a diplomat. 26, I got posted to Africa for 2 years. And since then, I started getting, posted. And while 25, I got posted for a short term in the UN. 28, I got posted again to UN for a short posting. And then I went to China when I was 29, and I learned Chinese for a year. I worked
Wow.
there in China. I was in charge of bilateral relationship between both countries, and my career actually flew, especially during those few years in China. By the end of my career, I was like 33 years old. By the end of my posting in China, I mean, I was like looking around me. I enjoyed that much. I had a lot of interesting things that were happening over the last few years in China, and I feel like this is my peak. I could not go further in my career. I have done almost everything that an ambassador. With all, I'm so humble to speak about it, but I wanted always to push myself. I was looking for what else. I really want to learn other skills. And when you ask yourself like deep questions, when you are trying to pursue something and you like to have more value, sometimes the universe it opens doors for you. So I got this opportunity to work in investment banking, and that actually was a development bank. It's very similar to the World Bank, but it's headquartered in China,
Yes.
and it has more than 100 member countries in its membership. And I got a chance to work there in the first year. So for me, that was another challenge. Okay, you were seeking for a challenge. Here we go.
Here it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So here you work in investment. It's not even, you work in liaising with other countries or so, or something similar to what I used to do in diplomacy. And I really enjoyed that much. I did it for 4 years. Because I was covering, and because I was the only Arab, African, and Egyptian in the bank. So I was
Oh,
the bank
amazing. And
eyes
what a
in.
lovely combination. That's just, I love it. I love to hear it. Pioneer, trailblazer.
That's as well was another sign for me. I mean, I
Yes.
never expected to work in banking for sure. But when you open your mind and you have this open mindset to accept the signs that we were talking about signs a few minutes ago, right? And
Yeah.
I got some other signs on that journey too. So my dream was to go back to New York. So after China, my dream was to, okay, you go back home for 2 years or so, and then you get posted to the UN again. But then this time will be for a longer term. So that was my dream. Okay. But then sometimes, universe wants something else from you. I got somebody who came to me and they say, Mustafa, that bank, I see you working there. And then my first response was, oh, no way. I want to go to New York. I have to go to New York. It's my dream. And next week, another person came to me and he said to me, Mustafa, you know why I'm really thinking about why you don't work in that bank. Actually, I see a lot of potentials there because you've been in China for a long time, you speak Chinese, and you could build this, bridge with different countries, different nations. You have experience actually across different cultures. Why you don't use this? And my response wasn't the same. I was like, really? I didn't even tell him anything. I was like, it's the second person to speak about the same thing
Yeah.
within a week, and they don't know each other's. And then until the third person came in 2 weeks' time from then, okay, I think this is a sign. Then I have to, I have to at least, I don't have to be reluctant to the signs that are coming to me. At least I have to open the door and see what will happen.
Yes.
And I started.
And just quickly, do
Sure.
you keep a journal? Do you write these signs down, or do you keep it all in your psyche, in your mind?
I write the
Yes.
big things. I really write them because sometimes I get to forget when I come back and I say, "Wow,
Yeah.
this happened to me."
Yeah, that's what I just wanted to share that because I am a big proponent of journaling and really having the ability to deconstruct your own narrative, even
Exactly,
if that's just privately, not, you don't have to publish it. But
exactly.
although we know that you do have a book that's in the making, but I want to share with the audience that if you're having these signs, it is completely suggested by Mustafa and myself that you write them down and keep a log and see
Exactly.
what the big picture looks like. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. And then I started receiving signs, people who never knew me and came to help me to get that position. It was so weird, but again, this message is not only for me, it's for everybody and anybody who get a message. Don't ignore it. Maybe the universe wants you to do something else, but open your mind,
Yes.
accept the messages are coming to you. Don't just insist on something, because I was insisting I have to go to the UN, I have to work in New York. But but then when I got those messages and I started, okay, let me check, let me see. And I started receiving people, even sometimes officials, high level officials, that they don't know me. They came for visits, high level visits. And I was in charge of these visits. And it was amazing, very miraculously. Over a year, I got that position. All the things got connected. And I found myself one day, I am in investment department, in investment banking. I never worked in investment banking, of course, but I have to build on other things. So I would tell you, for example, over the last 3 years in my embassy position, I was in charge of Chinese projects in Egypt. So of course I had that connection, and definitely I built knowledge, I built experience, I opened my mindset as well to be in charge of that. I'm still in my 30s, so I'm I'm happy that I'm still in my 30s, and I embarked
Yes.
last year in my, I would say, fourth career. And
So for all of my 30-year-olds who are thinking that you're stuck, I think that Mustafa has given you hope today. You are, I mean, with the changes and the shifts and the courage that it took for you to go from, pharmacist to investment banker. Well, before that, diplomat. I mean,
yeah,
these are not minuscule changes and shifts. These are very majorly different requirements for skill sets, for knowledge bases, and content area, and it's possible. It is possible. I'm in my 40s, but I agree completely with Mustafa. And anyone who knows me, they know that, when I'm ready to shift and change, it is something that I can't ignore because, as you said, Mustafa, we have one life, and I cannot live with regrets. That is not something that I don't know how to integrate that into my everyday living. So there's hope, folks.
exactly. And there is always hope, and we have all to cling to that hope, even if I have to keep my job or my career that I'm not happy about, I'm not fulfilled about, but I have to have a plan. And this is what I am trying, and my team encouraging people to have this plan and start planning now. So somebody in Hong Kong coaching 2 days ago, and he told me, I've been always working in private sector all my time, and now I have this opportunity to work in government, but I'm looking at another 30 years of my life. Do I want to spend another 30 years of my life in that? And what actually I literally told him is that it's fine to get that, let's say, experience in the public sector. So because you never know what your next adventure will lead you. So you have the private sector
Very true.
experience, and then maybe for 2 years or so, because I know him, his pace is quite fast, and maybe if he accustom himself to the slow pace normally, private sector is faster paced than government agencies and government entities. So I don't want him to work there forever, but get that opportunity, get that experience. Okay, get to know there, because you never know your next adventure where it will lead you. But when you compile
It's
that
true.
experience, private sector, with the sovereign side, or public sector, and then plan from now. I told him, even while you accept that position, start planning for now. Let's do it together and let's plan it from now. When is your next move will be? 2 years from now, 3 years from now? Well, you're gonna enjoy, your career. As he said, rightly said, I want to stuck somewhere for 30 years where I really love, not just stuck in a place that I don't like.
Yes, for convenience or just because it's accessible. And it sounds like you help people look at the structure of a dream. Because when we see dreams in cartoons or in comic books, we often have that, that cloud that comes from the person's head with the little dots. And it is a very ambiguous concept, a dream, so to speak. I'm a qualitative thinker and learner. This is what I am, but I understand also that there's an analytical side, and there are the bones and the lines and the pathways that have to be, I'm not saying that they have to be clear 24 hours a day, 100% of the time, but there does have to be some structure as you're moving towards your dreams. These things don't just materialize magically. That we would like them
exactly.
to, but
exactly.
they do not.
Exactly. If I could just mention my book, which I'm writing, I call it The Passion Project. And the idea of having a project, it's if you imagine that your life or your career is a project, which actually is, actually it's a project, yes, because you are building something, right? So if you all imagine this, that your life or your career is a project. So percentage of us build their projects and their life and careers on the wrong foundations. So what happens is that they keep spending most of the time fixing those problems, okay? The other segments, they build their lives and careers on weak foundations. So they don't spend time in their foundations, This is how their careers collapse, their life collapse. But if you manage to build your life on the right foundations, and the right foundations, actually, it's always different from one person to the other. So if you build them on the right foundations, you're going to thrive and you're going to grow and you're going to build something that can even live much longer than person should live. And this is actually what I'm trying to do with all the people I'm coaching, is that you first need to know yourself quite well, know your passions very, very well. Spend time on understanding each of them. Spend time on understanding how much fulfillment you're going to get from each of these passions. Test them, grow them, and then know your values. As I mentioned earlier, 2 big values of myself, especially over the last a year or two. Number 1, family. 2, freedom. So based on these 2 big values, and when I merge them with my passions and with my vision for my future life, I found out that actually I'm not able to do that kind of work in the banking anymore. And I want to be close to my family. I want to have more freedom to travel the world. I want to have more value to the people around me. So I have this message inside me and all these things that I learned through life. And I want to share them with people, because I have seen these concepts, they change my life. And, they really help me to have my life change. I'm enjoying my life more than ever. And I would love to share with everybody. I normally
I can see you're very passionate about, no pun intended, but I believe that, clearly you're already helping people, but I do know that you're definitely going to help the people that listen to this particular episode, because I know and that there are many people who are struggling with navigating this area, because it involves money. It involves expectations from their family. If they are parents and they have children, this is not an easy decision to make.
Exactly.
Changing careers, it is very complex. The nerve endings here are probably the most sensitive,
exactly,
the ones that you could imagine.
It's so challenging and it's so tough, but my humble advice here is to keep what you have already, so you don't lose something, and keep pursuing your passions, keep knowing yourself, keep reflecting, spend some time on your own, even in the weekend, to reflect on your values, your passions, and build your future vision for yourself. That question that always people ask in interviews, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Actually, people, make jokes about that question, but actually I see that question very important. I ask you and everybody who's listening to us now, where do you want to see yourself 5 years from now in life? Imagine your dream lifestyle. Well, sometimes I ask people that you don't want even to dream, but come on, this is too much for me. I say, okay, no worries. Don't censor any dream. Don't censor any idea. Just put them down. Just put them down, and don't censor, because a lot of people, before even they start thinking about it, they censor them. No, put them down. No one will let you pay taxes on this, right? Or fine you on this. Just put them down. This is my dream lifestyle. And one of my dream lifestyles, for example, was to live close to the sea, or at least manage to travel in my life. And actually, I'm able to do this at some point. So I'm able to travel the world, even in this pandemic, and which is even tough, but I'm trying to do my best.
Yes.
And so it's part of when you put everything in front of you and you spend time on reflecting, you will start getting ways and getting means how to get there slowly, step by step. Because no one can achieve everything at one point and, in a few months or so. It takes time.
You mentioned interviews, and I want to talk about something that people are concerned about, and it's a reality. Mm-hmm. If a person does indeed manage to shift a career, at least get an interview, with a company or within an industry that they have been longing and pursuing, mm-hmm. longing to join and perhaps master, the hiring managers, it is their job to be discerning. It is their job to understand whether or not they're hiring a fickle person, or if this new hire is a sustainable choice for the company, for the bottom line eventually, so they don't have to train a new person. What are some of the ways that people who are in these interviews can explain, themselves in terms of, hey, I did choose to change careers, but you can count on me. I'm not going to leave you, even though they might. They might 5 years from it, But how do you represent yourself as a trustworthy team member after you've you've left another world behind?
Sure. The world is majority of the world are generalists, or are people who like to do different things in life. So we are not a minority when you get to do different things, or at least have different passions and, want to try different things. But it's led by specialists. So as you said, when you go to an organization or so, and then a manager going to hire you, he has to look at, okay, how many years of experience you have in this position. But what he or she tends to ignore is that, there's no sunk cost, when you change your career and you come to the new career with your experiences. So if I just give an example from my experiences, that one of the main advantages and main strength that I worked on in terms of the banking was my ability to build business for the bank. So the business development part. And that actually I learned through the previous two careers. In my pharmacy career, I was handling always clients. So I learned in my first 3 years of my career how to build good rapport with clients, how to have even clients coming to buy from us only because of my personal relationship with them. That really helped a lot. And I grew that skill. I never knew in the beginning that all these skills would continue with me in a way or another. But actually that was my strength in diplomacy. And in diplomacy, we need that. We need that communication skill, right?
Yes.
It helped me a lot everywhere in my postings in either in UN or in Malawi, in Africa, or in China. And that actually what was my main strength point in the banking industry, because I brought a new perspective to look at things. Of course, I was coming from a different market, different background, and that's always being, somebody coming from the Middle East. I'm bringing that perspective, But actually, I was doing other things. I mean, I had this communication skills, which I was building on, because I was able to build those connections very quickly with whatever market we're working in, because of my cultural awareness, which I built over the years in my diplomacy career. So I was able to find ways quickly to open a new market, and get to reach to like, okay, where are the potential projects or where are potential business here. Another point was I was doing the things that others weren't able to do. So I was, as a diplomat, I was trained to do political analysis. I was trained to do economic analysis. So I was doing things that others weren't able to do. So I'm trying just to give a few indirect answers for whoever is going and embarking on interview, with a manager that would look only at the specialization, the specialist part in him or her. And I would say every strength point, there is a way to transmutate it or transfer it to go to the new career. So always focus on your strength point and where, what kind of value you can bring to your new organization. There is a very interesting article that was written decades ago by a mathematician called Freeman Dyson. Actually, he was comparing between specialist and generalist. So his article the title is Frogs and Birds. So, yeah.
Easy to remember. Frogs and birds.
So specialists are like frogs. They know everything, every single detail down in the mud. And journalists are like birds. They don't know every single detail down there, but they know, a lot of other boundaries. They can see different things. They can connect things. They can integrate things. So you cannot only form your team out of frogs. You cannot form your team out of birds. You need both, None is better than the other.
Absolutely. That's a great analogy. Analogy.
Exactly. So, and none is better than the other, but you need both, So, for example, for a specialist that you're hiring in the team, somebody who's doing this repetitive action, somebody who's spent years and years and years doing the same thing each time. So he's good at this. He's very skilled. But then you need somebody who can bring you solutions when you are facing a problem. You need somebody that can bring you solutions from his own experience. When you have another experience, you can always find ways to solve problems. You can be more creative. And that actually, I think it's the best way to form a team, is to have a team formed of specialists and generalists. Generalists who are people who spend few other years in different other industries, and they are coming with that approach. You don't look at individual as individual, you look at the team, and this is the strength of the team. I've been sometimes in organizations that they look only at the person, okay? But when you form a team, and actually that team is unbeatable. When you put 5 people, 3 specialists, 2 journalists with different other experience, former experience, then this team, can win anywhere, can solve problems, can be very creative.
That's right.
Right? So this is actually...
They're multifaceted. They have that advantage, yeah.
Exactly. So this is actually my answer to whoever is going for such interview, and my answer for the manager that he's going to hire. And actually, this is one of my passions in life, is to push this through. I have been in places where I used to be the generalist part and I'm faced by specialists, but the value that I could add is not less than whoever, the perspective and the experience that I was bringing to the table, it's worth, the experience. So none is better than the other. None is better than the other, and at the same time, both are very, very supportive, very helpful. Yeah.
I think that encompasses a lot of people's fears in terms of not feeling that they are good enough. So what you've done is really just affirmed that everyone is bringing a skill set to the table that is valuable, but part of that process is also knowing what table it is that you're bringing your skill set to. And if your passion aligns with it, I really am loving all of these concepts. Now, in terms of the book that you're writing, is there something you want to share with us in terms of, how it's going, when we might expect it? Should we just read your blog in the meantime? And also, do you serve clients worldwide, or are you just kind of hanging out on the other side of the planet? Or are you serving clients from the U.S.? Because that's obviously where I'm speaking now is based, although we do have listeners beyond the United States as well.
Yeah, because of my experience and my exposure, I consider myself a global citizen. and always my
Yes.
focus. And my clients are everywhere. So I have clients from the US, a few of them in California, and then a few in New York as well. The way I have, even in Latin America, in Colombia, all the way to the Middle East, the UK,
Amazing.
all the way to Hong Kong. Mentioning Hong Kong. So I have this global exposure, and this is actually, it's something I'm really enjoying a lot, because part of my expertise is dealing with different cultures. And actually, this was based on my experience as a diplomat. I worked in banking, taking care of different markets from Central Asia all the way to Latin America. All these things are combined.
Yes.
So I have this approach to look for people everywhere. As for the book, I really wanted to write the
The
passion
passion
project.
project. Yes, I can't
Thank
wait.
you. So I was planning to finish it early this year, but then I realized, while I was writing, that in order to write a very good book, you really need to spend more time. So I'm working actually with one of the best book marketing coach in the world. This is Steve Harrison and his team. Steve Harrison is somebody who helped to market for a very famous and popular books like Rich Dad Poor Dad, Men from
Yeah.
Mars, Woman from Venus, and The Chicken Soup for the Soul for Jack Canfield as well. So
Yes.
I'm working with his very professional team. Things are going very, very well. My original plan was to finish the book in a few months, which, according to the plan, supposedly, earlier this year. But I found out that in order to write a very good book, I would say, hopefully bestseller book,
Yes, I
you really
see
need to
it.
spend more time. Thank you. Thank you. The idea itself of the book, it's life-changing, because it changed my life. And I would really spend, and I see it right now as my main life project, if we call it a project as well.
Yes.
And I really want to give it all what I got to get, to have an amazing book, well written, full of amazing stories, not only my story, because I don't like to speak about myself. I want to speak about other people as well who managed to do it.
Yes.
So even each chapter in the book has a story about somebody where I focus on one of those project elements, and I spend time with somebody who explain how he managed through that project element, to get to change his or her career, or pursue a new passion, pursue a life purpose, or so. So it takes longer.
Yes.
So I think on average, like very good authors, they sometimes on average they spend 3 to 5 years to write a good book. But so I have been in the process for a while. Since last year, I am almost 50% done. So I hope sometime this year things will be in a very, very good shape, and then it's ready to be published.
Well, how can our listeners follow your progress and also glean some insight or hire you as their coach? How can they
So,
contact you and keep
so
abreast of
actually,
your work?
our main website is the passionmba.com. It's up and running. It has always a page on the book, so always there is a progress. I would love to share it there on that page. In terms of even hiring as a coach, there is always one-to-one, coaching sessions. It's always there. Even if people want to talk for 30 minutes free consultation, I'm happy to. I always do it. I always talk to people for 30 minutes or so. We discuss the issues that they have, and how we can tailor something together, because always the solution is not one solution for all. It's always depending on the person, and we plan and design something together. I also have my blog there. Feel free. I always have, almost on a weekly basis, I have to blog post every week, Monday and Thursday, and only all those blog posts are related to career in general, career tips, a lot of tips about how to change career, a lot of tips about how to enjoy your career more, how to rebuild your career on your passion. There are a lot of interesting things I'm putting there.
There are, and I
And
enjoy
then,
reading them. Yes, you're right.
okay. Thank you so much. And then on Instagram, The Passion MBA. On LinkedIn, Mustafa Amar as well, and they can find The Passion MBA on the page as well.
Okay. Well, I think you've given us a lot of opportunities to learn more about you and to also just learn in general. And I enjoy the content that you share for sure. It's always inspiring and it always allows me to look at something through a new perspective, whether it's with your coffee cup overlooking, the ocean, or whether it's actual excerpts from your blogs. It's all wonderful. What Lastly, I want to leave on this note, because part of I'm Speaking Now's mission is to really allow us to enter conversations, extract information, and come out with a more multifaceted and with a broader view. What would you say to the skeptical person, or to the mother or father, or the wife or husband who is listening today, who knows someone who wants to change careers, but there's this person is a skeptic, and they believe that passion is not enough, and that stability and predictability are more valuable than passion? How would you invite this person to view this concept differently? What would you say to that very staunch advocate for structure and predictability?
Yeah, I would actually convey two separate messages to the person himself or herself and the parents, husband, and family, friends, whatever. So
Yes.
to the person, I would say, don't rule out any possibility. It's fine that you are afraid of change. You are afraid of the unknown. You are afraid of losing what you got. It's fine. It's okay. It's normal, but don't rule out any possibility. Okay. So when you don't rule out possibilities, there are several possible future selves of yourself, right? So you could be an astronaut, even one of those possible selves, right?
Yes.
So don't just rule out right now, and then keep exploring yourself. Keep your position, keep your job. It's fine. I don't ask you to leave right now, but keep exploring yourself. Keep exploring your passions. Keep testing them. Keep reading out of your industry or the career that you're working in. So if you spend 30 minutes or an hour every day reading somewhere else, in those passions, they will start growing. And this actually what I was able to do when I was in the banking side after my MBA. I was reading and reading and reading in different aspects, different industries, like private equity, venture capital, entrepreneurship, and this and that and that. And you get to test yourself. It's not a one-time decision, this decision, you can start the first trigger in now, and then maybe a few years down the road, you get to reach there. But it sounds very difficult when you start thinking about it, but maybe a few years down the road, it's so easy. I give you an example. 10 years ago, I said to myself, I will never be an entrepreneur. I will never be. I was born not to be an entrepreneur. I just said it to myself, because I was put in a context or situation where I have to think about it. And then I say, no way,
Yes.
I cannot. But then when you have this open mindset, even if I said it, it happens and it change, and you change to be the new person who can accept this. Because we are actually different. We are changing. We are ever-changing creature. 10 years ago, we were so different from now, and we will be,
Yes, we should be. We should.
Yeah.
Evolution should be. We want to avoid de-evolution, but hopefully everyone has experienced the change that you're speaking about, where you have progressed in some way. Hopefully, I cross my fingers. This is the ideal.
Exactly. So we shouldn't close the door firmly closed. Keep them a little bit open and keep exploring while you have what you have. And I think this approach is not so scary, at least you have what you got, and then you explore, you get to grow your experience, and, because you are getting to be that new person in the future who might have that ability to do the things that you are not able to do right now.
I hope that you guys are taking notes here. I mean, obviously, can always come back to it. But Mustafa, you've just given us so much. And so what would you say to the skeptics, to the people who are saying to their spouses, "Are you kidding? You want to leave your job as an attorney to raise alpacas on a farm? Are you kidding?" What would you say to
So, being that person who was always asked that kind of question, with different attitudes, uh, I would say actually that people most of the time they spend looking at other people's businesses than minding their own
them?
business,
Oh my
which is
gosh,
which
that's so
is
true.
really a habit. Uh, so I don't
I
mind
love
people
that you're
telling me
so
this.
real. You're so realistic. I love it.
Yeah, actually, I mean, it's I have to be realistic to get to do all these things because I had to
Yes.
really come down to earth and accept all those reality and then try to change them. Otherwise, I will not be able, right, to change. So that's one fact. Actually, everybody should know that people they spend more time on the way others are wearing, the way others are behaving, the way
Yes.
others than minding their own business or how they live their lives. If I come closer to like the family circle or let's say parents, for example, because in specific cultures, parents have more power, for example, and they would, exert more power on their kids to get to a certain career or so. I would tell parents, your intentions and motivations are always good and you always want the
Yes.
best for your kids, and this is 100% understood. But something you really need to know that it's your son or daughter life, it's their own life. So you already taught them over, let's say, 20, 25 years, all the values that you got, all the things that all the things that you have. You give them everything, You cannot have more power anymore on them, and let them
Yes.
try. Let them pursue their passions. Actually, I support parents who are kind of wise parents. They say, okay, maybe this we don't know, but you give me a plan. When you start on this, give me a plan. Show me,
Yes.
that in 1 or 2 or 3 years from now, if you didn't make it, what you're going to do, let me know, because
Ah,
you are responsible. So let me know, because I had this always experience with my parents all the time, even in my last career change,
even as an
uh,
adult.
even
Yes,
as an adult, because
that's right.
parents are parents all the time, right?
All the
And
time.
exactly. And I have two different kinds of parents because my dad is more logical and my mom is more emotional.
Yes.
So the way actually I advise everybody the way you handle your parents, first you have to make sure of your choices before talking to anybody. So first you have to spend time on your passions and narrow them until you are sure of one or two, and then go and talk. Because if you are not sure, you'll be like that leaf that is just gone in the wind, right? So you
Yes.
have to be at least sure of what you are doing and what you are saying. And then the logical dad, for me, my dad was logical, so I was able to pitch him in different way. So dad,
Yes.
now I have more time. When I have this, I will have more freedom to spend more time with you. Imagine that if I take you and go to New York for a month, or
Ah,
we travel across the US for 6 months or so. I would have this freedom while I'm having my businesses around to spend more time with you. So, I mean, he got convinced, right? My mom, because
absolutely.
exactly, right?
Of
And my mom,
course.
because she's more emotional, so she took longer time. And I had to follow several techniques.
I
Uh,
thought it would have been the opposite. Isn't that something? Wow.
for my experience, I think the emotional side will be the hardest one, to convince, because it's always emotional. And she told me, come on, all what you got, you have this position, you have this diplomacy career is still in front of you. You have that, you have that, you have that. So I had to follow several techniques across long time, not a few weeks, several months to convince her. So my advice, as long as you're sure of this, as long as you have been in this process, no worries, it's your life. But then you should convince your parents, you could convince your family. Take your time to convince them, and by time they should be convinced. And my mom got convinced even after a long time, but she got convinced, and now she's fine and happy, and she forgot all
and
this.
proud of you. I'm sure.
And I'm proud as usual. It took some time to convince her, but there is always a way. There is always a way. Yes. So my advice is not to talk to them unless you're sure of the process, and so don't talk earlier in the phase while you're not very sure.
Right. It's you're reminding me of I don't know if you're familiar with the Cosby Show. It was a very popular show here in the States with Bill Cosby. Yeah. And there was a character, Denise, played by Lisa Bonet, and she played the character who was always the daughter who was always changing careers and always had a new plan. And that was just this ongoing theme within, and then finally toward the end of the series, she finally decided that I think she wanted to work with special needs children. But sometimes it takes time to finally figure it out. But Denise was doing the opposite of what you told us to. Every time she came up with a new idea, she was telling her parents, and then she'd switch another 5 months later. What you're saying is wait until you really do have a plan. So someone could work with a coach such as yourself. Someone could do the research first. And then when they're ready, bring the family or the spouse or, the significant people in your life in to your plan, but not while you're still mixing the cake batter. Just wait until the cake is in the oven.
Exactly. Spend time on your own. Spend time by yourself. I used to spend time on reflections almost sometimes every day. And then when you know yourself more, when you get to test your passion more, and when you find your ways, because you have an idea, but maybe it doesn't work. So spend some time. And once you have more of a clear vision, start telling the world. It's fine. And then, you can sustain your idea, you can sustain your dream and make it.
Wow. Well, I have to, I often tell my good friends, I quote Shakespeare, and I will say, parting is such sweet sorrow. I do not want to stop talking to you, Mustafa, because it is such a pleasure. I'm so happy that we connected, and I'm just so excited about the work that you're doing and that you'll continue to do for people. For sure, you have an ally over here at I'm Speaking Now for life. Is there anything that I've missed or that you want to share with the audience before we say goodbye?
Thank you, Ayesha, so much. I really appreciate this opportunity that you gave to me. And, we have been knowing each other for a while, and I really enjoying as well your post, your podcast, the way the way you give questions, the way you ask questions, the way you engage people and listeners, with the discussion and with the people you interview, and keep going, and all the best. Our friendship will definitely last forever. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. No. Well, thank you for those kind words, Mustafa. They always mean a lot to me. And the people that I speak to on this podcast are people of which I have high regard. So you are in good company. And I am humbled to have had this conversation with you, and for you to spend your time from so far away. And I know our time difference is quite significant. So you probably need to get some rest at this point. But we'll see each other on Instagram. Sure. And, I just want to say thank you for hanging out with us on I'm Speaking Now.
Ayesha. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And looking forward to seeing you in New York, right? Over a coffee.
Absolutely. Cheers in advance.
Cheers.